Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? I see we've got Gil Skills and Tom Andrews in here. How you guys doing? Thank you for being here. Think, well, I don't know if either one of you knows who Julie is from Frugal Family, but if anyone that is watching does not know Frugal Family, the links are in the description. This is Julie, my guest, and she's also a fellow dumpster diver. Would you like to say anything?
Just hello. Happy
She's
to
like,
be here.
I'm on a different channel, but we
Different.
we had the topic today for how as dumpster divers you can't necessarily please everyone, whether it's family, whether it's fellow YouTubers, YouTubers, watchers on YouTube. You can't necessarily please everyone. There's things that you don't take, they're not happy about. There's things that you do take, they're not happy about. There's always someone that's got a complaint.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm glad you guys are all here. And like I said, that's just a topic that I know I've been dealing with on the YouTube channel, especially. I think as dumpster divers, we've all dealt with it at some point where it's like, why do you have so much stuff? Like, whether it's other family that don't live in the house, family that live in the house, or, hey, you haven't found this in forever. Why haven't you found it? If you wouldn't have gotten rid of it, we would still have it. I know my kids have done that to me. We haven't found cookies in like months. And it's like, well, if you wouldn't have given away a whole stack of cookies, we'd still have them. It's like, well, I wasn't going to keep 50 packs of cookies in the house all at the same time.
No.
What's your number one? Like your number one complaint that you get?
So it depends. Are we starting with family, friends and neighbors, or viewers or fellow YouTubers? Where are we starting?
Take a leap wherever you'd like.
Okay, so one definitely would be with family, and that is that we do bring in a lot, and that can get overwhelming. That can be a mess as we process it and use it and whatever. But on the flip side, it sucks when we have to then pay for something that we maybe could have found dumpster diving, or that dumpster diving could have paid for if we were doing more dumpster diving. So there's this balance of knowing that by dumpster diving we will find a lot of the things that we need and would normally have to pay for, or we'll be able to finance the things that we have to pay for, but it can take over our lives and our house. Then on the flip, it's, well, you do less of it so that it doesn't take over your life and your house, but then you're not finding those things. And so then you have to pay for them out of pocket, out of the family budget. That's a big one that I deal with as far as family wise.
She goes, then I have to dip into my Disney fund.
Yeah, and we don't want to do that.
By the way, Disney, what, 18 days?
Yes. Yes. See the earrings that Shelly gave me?
I say, I know you got those as a fan mail. I couldn't remember who sent them, but I remembered you getting them.
Oh, they're fabulous. Yes.
You've got it now where they're facing the same way, because when you first got them, one kept flipping on you. Or there were two different.
Yeah, those ones were longer. They had like a chain to the actual Mickey, and so they would flip around and stuff. These ones are shorter, and so they kind of stay.
And Tom with the lurk. That's the number one reason why I have the lurk emoji in there for memberships, because Tom likes to lurk, and he requested a lurk emoji.
Nothing wrong with that.
Oh, Renee, yes, we are, I think, somewhere around that -10 today with wind chill, or -15. It's cold here now, too.
Jeez.
We're in like our polar vortex. Still not as bad as a year ago when it was -45.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and that's like you said, it is when you you're dumpster diving, you do bring in a lot. It kind of fills up an area of the house wherever you're storing it. You don't want to pay for storage because that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yep.
So you're constantly trying to relocate what you can, move what you can, do what you can with everything, just to not have it overtake. And then it's like you said, you go out less to bring in less, but then it's like, man, you're missing out on stuff that you might have been able to use. And you do. And like I said, sometimes when you're getting rid of a lot of stuff, like you get 20 packs of cookies, you get rid of half of them. You don't find any snacks for a while. Like I don't buy snacks typically when I go to the grocery store. So like my kids'
Yep.
number one complaint when we run out of them, it's like, well, you haven't found snacks in a while. We don't have any snacks. And I'm like, well, we'll find them eventually. I always tell you to slow down on what you're eating because you don't
Yep.
know when you're getting it next. So that is like
I
a
had
number
that.
one complaint.
I had that happen. I had a whole bunch of the dollar store soft soaps, the hand soaps. I had so many of them. And so, of course, I shared a whole bunch of them. And then we ended up running out. And I've regretted it ever since. Not that I shared. I'm glad I shared. But of course, then we ended up having to buy some, which
10 months later, you finally find some more.
yeah, that sucked. But what are you going to do?
Hi, Bonnie. Hi, Ellie.
We can't hold on to everything. There's no way. We don't
Yeah.
have room.
And then I know, like we said, for the subscribers or watchers, whichever way it goes, because some have a YouTube channel, some don't. I think the number one thing is go out, and some of them will complain because you grabbed stuff that would go in the refrigerator, and they're like, well, that's not safe. And then if you don't grab it because you're not sure about it, you're questioning it, they're like, well, why didn't you grab that? You could have saved it. Or broken things, like why didn't you grab everything that was broken? You could have repurposed it for something else. You could have reused it. Number one thing I hear a lot is that broken fish tank could have been a planter. And I'm like, I won't use it. I don't have anyone for it. And it's just going to sit in my house broken, taking up space, and risking one of the kids falling into it now and going to the ER because they fell into a broken fish tank that could have been repurposed to someone. I don't have the outlet. Like I tell a lot of the newer divers that come in, I'm like, biggest tip I could say is find an outlet for everything, whether it's crafting supplies, food, material, anything that you may find. Because if you can't sell it, because a lot of us do sell on the side, if you can't sell it, if you can't use it, you at least have an outlet of these places will take this donation, even though the food is a month past, even though the dog food might have been cut open, they still will take it. There's places to bring it so you can actually move it out of your house and not just stack it. Because once you've gotten it out of the dumpster, you did all the work of driving there, you did all the work of getting it out. The last thing you want to do is put it back into the trash and put it right back where you got it from.
Right. So the one that I've run into a lot is meat, like raw meat. I get flack for that all the time because so-and-so takes meat and they've never had a problem. And so-and-so always takes the meat. And how dare you leave all that meat and call yourself frugal and saying you want to save stuff and blah, blah, blah. And you're not taking the raw meat. So you're talking about kids falling into like a fish tank and having to go to the ER. I'm thinking my kid's going to get salmonella or some other madness and we're going to end up in the hospital. It's not worth it. It's not worth that risk. But I always will preface that and say, if other divers are willing to take that risk, go for it. If that is what works for you and you're okay with that, then do it. I 100% support you. If other divers have been doing it and so far have been incredibly lucky and have not gotten sick or had a problem, wonderful. I'm so glad that it has worked out for them. But we do each have our own limits, our own parameters, and our own priorities. And for me, as a mother of fairly young kids, my priority is their health and their safety. And we will buy our own meat. Not only that, my kids don't really eat meat. My husband, there's no way he's going to eat meat out of the bins. That's just not something he's willing to do. And I don't have anybody who would take it. I also don't have a deep freezer. So even if which I'm not, but even if I was willing to eat the meat, that would be great because I'm on keto and that would save me so much money. But I'm not willing to take that chance. And I don't have anyone else that is willing to take raw meat from the dumpsters. So I can't do that. It's not a risk that I can take health-wise, financially, and it's also not something I have any use for or anyone that I can share it with. So it wouldn't make any sense to take it in the first place. Also, Crystal and I talked about as we were preparing for this, I used to take everything. Okay. I mean, oh my God, everything. And if viewers that have been with the Frugal family a long time, you'll know that I took everything, every little thing that could possibly be repurposed or upcycled or reused or shared or sold or whatever. I would take it with all these great intentions and with lots of good ideas. I'm not short on ideas. I have so many ideas popping out of my head all the time. I can come up with a purpose and a use for almost anything that we find in the dumpster or that I see other people find in the dumpster or on the side of the road. And some of those things actually came to fruition. Some of those crafting and projects and upcycles and repairs actually did happen. And I'm really proud of that. And that's great. But I also am a mom and a housewife and teaching my daughter at home and everything else. And so it was not realistic, especially with a very small house, no storage space, not willing to pay for a storage unit. It just became untenable. There was no way that I could keep bringing in that kind of volume with all these great ideas of plans and projects and keep up with the amount of videos that I was making and trying to still, clean my floors every now and then. There was no way. And so about a year ago, we started scaling back like a lot. And it was hard for a lot of longtime viewers to accept that that was what we needed to do. I did also get a lot of support as well in making that decision. But people that have been with us a long time, they're like, but normally you would take this and this and this, and here's all of this you could do with it. And what I had to explain and have had to explain again and again is that, yes, I could. Theoretically, if I had 84 hours in a day, and if I had a nanny and if I had a housekeeper, maybe I could do all those things. But realistically, right here, right now, no, I absolutely can't. And I'm no good to the mission of saving and salvaging, to the environment, to my society, just my neighborhood, anybody, if I'm just piling stuff up everywhere with good intentions and great ideas overflowing and destroying my family life. It was so much stress for myself, my marriage, my family, that it was not worth it. Not at all worth it. But the thing is, what doesn't change even after you make that commitment, and it's this way, I know for a lot of divers and collectors, the desire is still there. The desire is 100% still there. And the ideas, when I find stuff, those ideas still pop up. And I still am like, I would love to take this and this, and oh, I could do this, and oh, I could do that. And I have to constantly remind myself, similar to an addiction or whatever, no, you can't do that, Julie. You can't do that. Even though technically, theoretically, yes, I could, I won't. It won't happen. And it's not worth well, maybe it will someday. It's not worth that stress on my mind and on my shoulders and above our heads in the attic, which used to be jam-packed full. And I still am having to go back through it again and again because those behaviors are still there. I still will keep way too much, more than I should, and just put it up in the attic. And in fact, that's something I'm working on this coming week, is going through it again so that it never gets like that again. So my thing, just kind of piggybacking on what Crystal said, for new and upcoming divers, put limits in place from day one. Mm-hmm. Know exactly how much storage space you have, know where things can go, have your outlets, as Crystal was saying, have avenues for distributing this stuff, and maybe niche, maybe focus on, well, I'm only going to take pet items. I'm only going to take floral items. I'm only going to take food, whatever. Try to niche down, because once you jump in and take everything, it is really hard, after doing that for a long time, especially, to try to niche down and focus in on only one kind of thing that you can realistically deal with in your home and in your life.
And Patty Fish, welcome. Julianne did ask a question. When you guys are out of something in particular that you don't want to spend your money on, do you go look in the dumpsters for it first before you go to the store? For me, I'm going to use NWI's favorite saying, you shop the back door. So before I go into, usually it's Aldi's, because Aldi's is close to me, I will always look in the dumpster before I go in, just to see if there's anything that I'm going to buy or anything I need in there before I spend the money. And I also have to say, I agree with Gil Skills here. There's a fine line between being a recycler, repurposer, and a hoarder. There really is. There's that fine line. You don't want to ever hear that hoarder aspect, but there is that fine line you walk. Like you can overdo it. You can definitely overdo it. And Ann DeFew, hello, how you doing?
So absolutely. Oh my goodness. We shop in the back all the time. But some of you know that I will periodically, and I'm working on one right now, I will periodically put together a wish list. Whether I actually do a video of it or not, it usually doesn't happen, but I might actually do another video of it. But I will have either in my head or written down a dumpster wish list of the things that I am hoping to find in the dumpsters. And then I just kind of put that energy out into the dumpster universe. And so many times, things that I was looking for, things I needed, was going to have to buy, they show up in the dumpsters. Call it whatever you want to call it, but it does happen. Will I find every single thing on my list? No, I won't. But I will save money by finding one or two of the things that will then help pay for the other things that are on my list. It has happened so many times that it's almost unbelievable. In fact, one of the things on my list right now, if you've watched my channel, is that I was looking for the sensitive toothpaste, like Sensodyne or any brand of sensitive toothpaste, because that's what Olivia, my oldest daughter, and I use. And it's expensive. Well, wouldn't you know, that weekend, we found a brand new tube of it in the dumpsters. And I have just about finished using that tube. Luckily, I had another tube that I had bought on hand and can use that. But I'm hoping that the dumpsters this week or next, or within, a month is about how long it'll take us to use this other tube. So within about a month, hoping that the dumpsters will provide some more sensitive toothpaste. It's it's funny how that works. Then, but on the flip side, things that I've had happen way too many times, I will give up on the dumpsters and I'll go ahead and buy something. Or I never put it on my little mental wish list and I decided to just go ahead and buy it because I thought, oh, that'll never show up in the dumpsters. And of course, after I've bought the thing and opened it and used it and whatever, it shows up the next week in the dumpsters. There's no like guaranteed like science or anything behind this. But that is the experience that I've had is if you put that energy out there, a lot of times you will find the stuff that you would have had to pay for. You won't find all of it, but at least give the dumpsters, if you can hold out, at least give them a month of consistent, regular diving. Give the dumpsters a chance to provide. And oftentimes they will.
And I'll say what Gil said. If you're in here and you haven't hit the like, hit that like. And if you are so inclined, please share it out. I'll also use Julie's saying, if you don't like it, go ahead and hit the dislike. Either one's interaction. I'm not going to tell you which way to go. But yeah, I was also going to say something else and I forgot. I got to recap my memory. Oh yeah, like about that, where sometimes it's kind of funny. Around Thanksgiving, we had went out and we decided we wanted to try out the air fryer. So we had bought the small air fryer that was on a Black Friday sale, real cheap. Tried it out, we absolutely loved it. We're like, oh, we want a larger one. We want something that's bigger, just because a small air fryer just doesn't work with a family of 5. So we had said that. And I want to say it was only maybe a month later when I was at the Big Lots dumpster and I found the 8-quart, or I think it's the 8-quart or 6-quart air fryer in the dumpster. And it's like, well, yeah, it's you do find things that you put out there. You do.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So many I have found. And then others, it's things that maybe you hadn't thought you needed until you found them. And then a situation, this is a really kind of cosmic, spooky kind of situation, but I've had this happen many times where I'll find something and before I've had the chance to move it on to someone else, to donate it, to sell it, whatever, the same item that we already have will break or be ruined or become necessary.
Yes.
And guess what? We found it last week. There it is. Yeah. Wacky stuff, but it's awesome.
That. You definitely have that. And Anne, hello. Yeah, and it's like the other day I was out and I had another diver show up and I didn't know who it was at first. I was in the dumpster pulling stuff out and I get out of the dumpster and he's like, I guess I was a little bit late. He's like, but really, I'm just looking for scrap. Or did you find any scrap? I'm like, no, there was none in that one. But I pointed him to another dumpster. I'm like, this dumpster had a decent bit of shelving and scrap in there. And he's like, oh, thanks. Because, like you said, you pick what you're going to go for. If I come home with certain things and scrap, I'll put it to the side to bring up to the scrapyard when I go up there. But I don't make special trips to the scrapyard. I'm not a scrapper. That's not what I do. It doesn't have a very big pay profit for the little bit of scrap I'd be bringing in. So I don't purposely go out hunting for scrap. So if I find it, I leave it. And if I run into a diver that I know is a scrapper, it's like, well, that dumpster had scrap, or a pallet collector. Hey, that dumpster had pallets, and you direct them around. So you kind of have the respect for the other divers of, like, you're not going to grab everything that you don't need or don't want or don't have an outlet for. I know for me, when I go out, a lot of divers in our area, and that's a plus. That is a plus when you're leaving things behind. There are a lot of divers in a lot of the areas, especially recently. You know someone's coming behind you most likely, so it's not going to get left. But I know a lot of my local divers don't take food. The food gets left almost every time. So I usually will grab as much of the food that I find, because I know I can bring it to the little pantry, or I can give it to someone and I can get it into a house that actually can utilize it instead of it just going to the landfill.
Absolutely. I used to, and this was a major bone of contention here in our family. I used to, like I said, I grabbed everything, including scrap metal. Some of the things I did to get stuff into my van, anyway, ridiculous, and ended up breaking pieces inside of my van with some of these things of metal. It was madness, absolute madness. And what would happen? Well, it would pile up in my yard until there was finally enough that it was worth making the trip to the scrapyard. The rates in Utah for scrap metal are very low. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous how low the return rates are on scrap metal. And so you've got to have a massive amount, especially if you're just getting like iron and, you know, dirty metal and whatever. You have to have so much of it for the trip to even be worth it. Not to mention having it take up a big, ugly pile space in your yard in the months and months that it takes for you to get enough to make it worth it. So I have had so many people comment, you know, they're brokenhearted or this or that I left all that scrap metal behind. But at the same time, they're not the ones that have to live with it or have family harping on them because there's a big ugly pile of metal in the yard where we could be living and playing and barbecuing or whatever. So I will still at least take wires. Like if I find something and it doesn't work, I will at least clip the wires. Those have a higher profit margin and don't take up much space. So those are something I will absolutely do. But the big metal shelving units and all of that, I don't do that anymore. And I do get a lot of heat for it, for not taking it. But what I really hope will come out of this conversation, this topic in particular, I really hope that family members, friends, neighbors, viewers, subscribers, what I really hope you'll get out of this is that what you see on screen is this much of our lives. It's this much of our responsibilities. It's just this little tiny bit. And for those of us who this is our job, absolutely our job, we don't get to clock out and leave work. Unless you happen to have your own scrap yard and your own storage unit and warehouse or whatever. I don't, and most of us don't. Our work stays with us where we live. There's no getting away from it. We can't just leave our place of business, leave it behind and go home. They are together. There's no separating those unless you want to put in extra expenditures, which most of us can't afford. So for us, we can't think of it in the same way that you would with a regular job. And yes, it absolutely is a job for us, a very much a full-time job for a lot of us. But it's not one we ever get to just leave because it's with us here where we live all the time. And we have to make difficult choices based on not being able to clock out and leave our place of business, knowing we have to live with whatever we salvage until we have gotten it to somewhere else. I really want people to realize that. Number one, we're human too. We're just people with cameras and Wi-Fi connections. but also for those of us whose this is our real life job, we don't get to leave our job. And whatever we get out of those dumpsters, you only see generally, I like to include some behind the scenes and stuff that we do with what we find, but the majority of viewers only watch when we get the stuff out of the dumpsters.
Yep.
The majority of viewers are only interested in seeing us get it out of there, which kind of alleviates the responsibility of thinking about, but then what are they going to do with it then? Who's going to deal with it after? And a lot of people don't think about, okay, but what are we going to do with all this crap once we get it home? And how are we going to incorporate it into our lives and make it so that we can live with storing stuff if we need to? I really hope that people can get that and understand that, and not that will necessarily stop people from commenting the same stuff about why didn't you take that and why did you take that and whatever, but to maybe understand kind of what it entails and what all is involved before giving us a hard time about why we didn't take this, that, or the other that they absolutely, sorry, gonna get snotty for a minute. If I had a nickel for every time someone said, well, I would have blah, 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 I would never need to work another day in my life. So if before commenting, think about, okay, if it really was me, what would I do with it? Realistically, how would I deal with all of that? When would I actually get to it, or would it pile up in my house? Think about us as real people with real lives, with real jobs that we never really get to get away from before maybe giving us a hard time about what we do and don't take.
Yeah, and that's, I think too, we get a lot of the flack of many people that are watching dumpster divers are watching multiple different channels, and every channel has their bottom line of what they're going for, what they refuse to take, what they're going to do. But people will watch one dumpster diver that will take every ounce of food they find, and then they'll see the next diver who won't touch food, and it's wrong to them that you're not taking that food, but they don't put into account your reasons. Maybe there's allergies in your house, maybe there's a severely compromised immune system that would be a huge risk to take. Maybe there's a reason you're not taking it, but people don't really take that into account. They also don't take into account that some of these larger YouTubers, some of the ones that they really watch, they have storage units because they're making a huge amount of money on YouTube. They're making a huge amount of money on their sales of items that they're finding, which comes down to another issue. I don't know why I seem to see this flat more with the smaller YouTubers. If you sell something, it's automatically wrong. You shouldn't have sold it.
Oh boy!
Everything you found. And
I wondered if we would touch on this.
Have huge YouTubers that are openly dumpster diving for a profit only. They're dumpster diving to sell. They barely donate anything. They put it out there that that's what they're doing, and that's okay. But if a smaller YouTuber gets a carload and they donate and then they sell stuff, it's wrong because you got it all for free. But they don't realize when you go out there, you're buying out your vehicle, you're putting gas in your vehicle, time out of your day. And as Julie said, it can be your job. That's the income you're making, whether it's from YouTube revenue, from Patreon supporters, as Julie has, from super chats, or anything that's coming in job. So when you find this stuff, some stuff is going to get sold. Even the dumpster divers that say they never sell, I can pretty much guarantee they sell. But you also have, like, for me, I have pets. The pet food is one of my favorite finds. Now you can have someone like Julie who doesn't have the pets. She doesn't even really check those dumps often, or there's other dumpster divers that they'll find
really not ever.
A whole bunch of food in the pet store dumpsters and they don't take it because they don't have pets at home, or they don't trust it, or they don't have a where to bring it. And to someone like me, I see that, I'm like, oh my God, I would have loved that. That would have been a godsend for me. So I might have that little bit of that gut thinking like, oh my God, but for them, it was nothing that they ever wanted. It's like, It's again, goes back to, you have to bring it home. You have to store it. And I'm sorry, with everyone in the chat, I will say, I see everyone conversating, and I'm trying to comment periodically in chat because, like, as we're talking, it's kind of hard to just go, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Because it's hard to do. But I'm not ignoring you guys.
we're just trying to get the conversation out there, get all the information out there. But we are so grateful for anyone and everyone that watches this now in the live stream or on the rebroadcast. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
So I will go into that. Like you said, hopefully people realize that there is that other side that we have to deal with, that people don't want to see, that don't watch, that they just don't want to think of. But I hope that people also take that from it, that just because a YouTuber is a smaller YouTuber, it doesn't diminish the right or the okay aspect of it, of selling items as well. Honestly, usually the smaller YouTubers are the ones that are struggling just that little bit more just to continue diving, because it does put a beating on your vehicle. It does put, you have to put gas in your vehicle. Sometimes you go out, and I know Julie just recently had that, where you go out and you find nothing, but you know you want to have content to put out. So then
not just want to have, you need to have.
Well, yeah, and you do, because if you don't put a video out on your normal schedule, everyone's like, what happened? And instantly it's like you lose subscribers almost instantly because of that. You get people that just unfollow you instantly, like, oh, they just quit, they're not doing it anymore. It's like they instantly write you off, like you're done because you didn't do something one day. But you then feel that obligation, so you're driving 4 hours to try to find some dumpsters, or driving into completely different areas. And so now you're adding gas in. Andrew, how you doing? It's early for you.
So I've got to jump in on the selling stuff. Oh boy. Okay. And to try not to get salty with this. Okay. I got a comment the other day. Someone, boy, they were angry. And I know a lot of it was just straight up jealousy, and we deal with that a lot. But there's also this indignation that for whatever reason, especially people that don't realize this is our job and won't accept that this is our job. It's not a job that was available 10 years ago. I get that, but it is a job that's available now, and it is a real job. We have to pay taxes. It's a real job. Okay. But there are people who have a really hard time accepting that this is our job. Okay. So that's where it kind of stems from. And so this particular commenter, who I'd never seen before, could not accept that that I was going to use the laundry soap that I had found to wash clothes that I have found, because I always wash clothes before I'll donate them. And apparently, I think it was a she, didn't listen to everything I said, only saw what she wanted to see, heard what she wanted to hear that fit kind of her narrative, and just assumed that I never have to pay for laundry detergent because I find it in the bins. I just said I found it in the bins. So what am I even talking about? And I'm so greedy and so selfish, and I hope you get caught. A, I've been caught many, many times, still here, still doing it. And B, no, we still pay for the majority of our needs. People seem to think that we're making like oodles and gobs of money on here, and we're not allowed to say how much money we make off of YouTube. You can't say that on YouTube, or you'll get in big trouble. Okay. Yeah. But no, it's not enough that it's going to pay for all of our laundry detergent all the time and still pay for the other things that we need to pay for and want to pay for. Okay. So no, we still buy our own special laundry detergent. We do that out of our family budget. I don't know where this viewer got this idea that we just don't have to pay for anything, that it's all in the dumpsters that we're getting for free, that just, falls into our laps, apparently. Sorry, trying not to get too salty, but it pissed me off. Okay. It really did. I just haven't had a comment like that in so long. Most people have accepted and understand that this is how I make my living. It is how I supplement my husband's income. It's how we pay for the extras that we absolutely would not be able to afford otherwise. And yes, it does provide a lot of things that we would have had to pay for, things that we do need, but it doesn't cover everything. It absolutely does not cover everything. At most, at the best of times, and again, I'm not allowed to give numbers, it would be like I had a part-time job that was contributing to the family income. Okay.
Yeah.
But I work
Yes.
full-time hours. All right. The bonus for me is that I get to be a stay-at-home mom and be in my kids' lives way more than if I was going and punching in and punching out at a part-time job.
Yeah.
So that's a biggie right there. But thinking that for somehow it's wrong for us who went and did the work to go and get the stuff out, wrong for us to use it ourselves and not donate absolutely everything. And wrong for us to make any money off of what we're getting for free is so just like asinine and ignorant that it annoys me no end. No end. Deep breath.
Yeah.
Okay. So please, if you're just watching and you're like, oh, they're getting all this free stuff and oh, they're on YouTube, so they're making all kinds of money. No on both counts. No, none of it is ever free. We have to go find the bins. We have to figure out when is the time to go that is safe, that we're not going to run into people. We have to drive our own cars and put miles on them. And then there's gas. And we have to do the physical, actual lifting and grabbing and buying the tools to get the stuff out. Then we're the ones that have to clean it and deal with it and dispense it. It is a job. I think that should be one of the like main things that we get out of this. It is a job. No, it is not a job that existed when your grandparents were raising their kids. It is not a job that existed when I was growing up or even as an adult. It is a very recent job, but that's something we've seen throughout history, that new jobs are created. Go back 40 years, there weren't IT people. There weren't people that was their whole life was making video games and taking care of your computers, maybe like 50 years ago, whatever. But that was a job that came into existence that maybe for some people, they're like, what do you mean you play video games all day? That's your job? How is that your job? That's not a real job. You need to go get a real job and pay for your own laundry detergent. Whatever. Things change. That's just the way it is with society. New jobs come into existence. And this for us absolutely is one. And we work hard at doing it and have earned the right to use the stuff, to share the stuff, to donate the stuff, or to sell it, as the case may be.
I don't think people realize just how much work it is getting this stuff out of the dumpsters. Like, I'm sure people can see it, like, even on Julie's end where she's using the tools and she's pulling each individual item. I find that harder. But when I jump into that dumpster, I'm telling you, in that 10 minutes I'm in the dumpster, maybe 5 even, by the time I'm jumping out, I am so winded. Like, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. And getting out sometimes, I get in there and I'm fine. Once I've done all the digging, done all the work, I go to get out, I'm like, oh crap, I don't know if I have the upper to do this again. But it's a lot of work. Like, I get people see Julie and they're like, she uses all the tools. That's all she uses. She doesn't have to get in the dumpster to get most of the stuff. And they're like, so why not use more tools? Why not have a grabber? I am the worst person ever with a grabber. The worst person ever. Those grabbers break within one dive for me. My grabber I currently have is literally, it's been bent into like a twisty, turny, loopy thing for probably the last year. I will not replace it. I use it if I absolutely need it, and it still works for that. But I will not replace it because I'm so sick of wasting money on something that legitimately I've never had one last longer than a day. But for me, it's easier to jump into the dumpster, get the stuff, and get out. It's so much faster. It's so much easier. I'd rather do that. I also get the question of, why don't you have totes? Well, that's just me. I'm the most forgetful person in the world. My kids all do Taekwondo. We have all their bags in the back of my car. So in order for me to bring totes, I have to unload all those bags, put the totes back in. I can't just leave them in there. So for me, when I leave the house, I get in the car, I go, sometimes I dive without planning, and then I get there and I go, crap, I forgot them at the door again. So I don't, it is what it is. I don't know if you saw Julie had said too, she thinks that you need to do at least one organizing video every once in a while because she enjoys them. And Gil asked you, what's your favorite find? I know you answer this every time, but Gil's new to you. So
every time. Every time. It used to be the little book with the gold flake in it. It was like a little souvenir or whatever. But I don't have any one particular favorite find. Rather, it's the stuff that we've been talking about. My favorite is when I find things I would have had to pay for anyway. Those are my favorites, and they're usually the most boring, not exciting, not glitzy, glammy. There's boring stuff. And those are my favorites. But I also wanted to jump on to what you were saying just barely. And that is, let's reiterate the fact that we're all different. I don't think people realize this job is 100% unique. It is so, so different. We have guidelines from YouTube that we have to follow, all right? But beyond that, there's no how-to. There's no set instruction manual for how to be a YouTube dumpster diver. None of us are cut from the same cloth. None of us went to like a dumpster diving school for YouTubers. And that is why nobody fits into one mold. We are all absolutely different. We started dumpster diving whenever we started. For me, like almost 13 years ago, for a different reason, I'm sure, than anybody else, but maybe the same reason as someone else. We don't know. And then came to the point of doing YouTube, most of us for different reasons. And we live in different places. I'm in Utah. It's a whole different place than, say, for instance, Cynthia, Diving with Purpose, who lives in Texas. They are so different. Or someone in Florida. It's a whole different world with a different person with a different background who didn't go to a dumpster diving school and get any kind of certificate that required that you do X, Y, and Z or know how to do X, Y, and Z. Most of us, we had to learn it on our own or watch someone else doing it to get ideas from them. Me, where I've been doing it so long, I had to just learn it all as I went. There was no one to tell me what to do. There were no videos to watch to say, this is how you do it, which is another reason, side note, that I get annoyed when people treat it like it's not a job or like I get everything for free. They weren't there in the 10 years that I was learning how to do it through trial and error and bruises and blood and sweat and scrapes and cuts and everything else, and dealing with cops and store managers and driving endlessly, doing my reconnaissance. They weren't there for that learning period. They only see now where, oh, you find so much stuff and then you go to Disney World and you're so rotten. They don't see that part that most of us have had to go through to learn how to do this, which then I absolutely think entitles us to do what we choose with our dumpster diving and with what we find. Absolutely. And we can do it however we want.
That's exactly it though. Like, you don't have a manual on how to dumpster dive. You're all going to do it your own way, but the people watch so many different people and they kind of think that everyone should do it the same way, like almost like it is a uniform job of everyone should follow the same guidelines, but it just doesn't happen that way. Whether it's because of storage in the house, your preferences, what your ability to even put in your car is sometimes, because some people are dumpster diving in a car as compared to a van or a truck. So you find something like when I found that big tank stand, had I not drove my husband's truck that day, I couldn't have put it in my car. There's no way it would have ever fit. But because I had his truck, I could. Some people just don't have the ability to get the stuff out of the dumpster. There's a lot of little things that have to be taken into effect. Plus, when, let's just say, someone that does dumpster dive, I'm going to use Gene's name because Gene doesn't have a channel and I know he does a little bit of diving. If Gene were to dumpster dive, he can do whatever he wants while he dives without recording for YouTube. When we step into the next stand of YouTube, we have the YouTube guidelines we have to watch. If we put our kids in the video too much, it's now kids content. They don't want comments on the video, and then people complain you don't have comments. For me, I had YouTube for a while there that kept deleting my comments, taking them off my videos, saying my channel was a kids content channel. Still haven't figured that one out. And I had other people that were watching that had no YouTube channel at all coming into other videos and commenting, I just watched X and X and X, and you turned your comments off. How can you be on YouTube and you can't take the criticism then, and you're going to take your comments off, and I'll watch the other divers that are okay with me commenting. And I'm like, I didn't even turn the comments off. Like I had explained to her, like I've been dealing with this for months and I keep having to fix it and turn the comments back on. And if you look back at my comments, I've got comments on every other video. So why would I turn it off on this one? And she finally, like the one that did that one did come back and apologize to me. Like, I'm sorry. I kind of went off when I shouldn't have, but you get that end of things. You got to deal with YouTube's algorithms and YouTube's rules and YouTube's push. And then you've got like the, just in general, like people that come in and normal person goes out in the dumpsters, you get hurt. And there's times words might slip from your mouth and you can't help it. And if you're live, you might, and then you have the people that are just like language and they get angry instantly. It's like, well, sometimes it just slips. So you have a lot of guidelines you're dealing with when you're on YouTube that you don't deal with when you're not on YouTube. And
absolutely,
people don't realize that. The ones that dive that don't have a YouTube channel don't realize just how much other stuff we're dealing with when we're dealing with just getting that video out to you. And then you have the divers, like, and I know she won't mind me saying it, but like NWI diver, she does not record footage at the dumpster. She does her hauls. I record at the dumpster 99% of the time. There's times where I don't, and I just show my haul. And you've got the people that are watchers that will criticize those that don't show the dive because they're doing. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. It's just the criticism in the comments gets to be a little bit much. Yep. Whether you're doing what they want, what they don't want, whatever it may be. It's just, it gets to be a little bit much. If you don't like what we're doing, just move along. Some people,
there are so many that you could watch that will fit whatever flavor it is that you like. There's no way, there is no possible way that we can or that we should try to cater to every individual viewer. There is no way. We will take constructive criticism, useful tips and comments, but we can't please everybody. There is absolutely no way. It will never happen, and us still be able to maintain our sanity and our productivity. The other thing that I've had to start doing is being very careful what I record, what details I show, so that I can maintain my bins and still have something somewhere to dive. These are things that if you're not recording, you don't have to think about.
Yes. And that's so you do. You get the people that figure out where you're diving, they come around, they start like leaving messes, doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and then
trying to follow you,
blocked, and things are getting destroyed, which never were before. Or you get the followers. And I'll even mention on the channel, like Julie did recently, when you're out and about, when you put yourself out there on YouTube, you put your whole family out there on YouTube. And we're not famous. We're just Joe Smo down the street. We're just a regular family. But some of the followers really want to meet you. They see you as this amazing highlight of a person that they want to know. And they think they know you because they watch your videos. And they figure out where you live. They figure out where you're diving. They figure out what you drive because they see your vehicle. And they try to find you if they're relatively close. And I'm all for meeting new people. I am. But as Julie said, there is a way, there's a time, there's a place. Don't ever pull up on a dumpster diver, even if it's not a YouTuber. Just pull up on a dumpster diver and sit there and watch them. Like you can say hi, you can say, how's your dive going? Like I'll do that when I pass a diver sometimes. But when you just sit there and stare at them, we don't know what your intentions are. And especially when we have our child with us, a lot of times we're diving with our children. A lot of us are stay-at-home moms. Our children are with us. We don't know what your intentions are. And the last thing we want is risk for ourselves, but risk for our child as well. We're on high alert already in the bins because you're watching for a store employee to come out. You're watching for another person to come up on you. You don't know what's coming behind you. So coming up and just like out of the blue, following us around or trying to get our attention, it won't end pretty. It just won't. It just won't. It's dangerous for everyone involved.
Yep. Really so I want to jump back to comments real quick, and then I want to answer Julie N's question real quick before we wrap up. So something I dealt with in comments and haven't really in a while But I exercise absolute authority when it comes to comments. I will delete and I will block at will. And I have no problem with that. It's my channel. I'm the one that puts the effort in. I have an environment that I have worked very hard to create, and I want to keep it a happy place, an inspiring place, an encouraging, friendly, loving place as much as I possibly can, and especially in the comment section. So if I see stuff that I'm not allowed to say, I will block you. I will absolutely block you. And in the beginning or the first couple years, I did have some people say, you block everyone that says something that you don't agree with, and you're trying to suppress people's freedom of speech on my YouTube channel. You can't hack it. You can't take what people have to say. Yeah, if you're dropping F-bombs and if you're insulting me or my children, that's not suppressing your freedom of speech. That is not being able to take it. That's protecting my family first, and then it's protecting my viewers and our community. The real viewers, the real people that are, in my case, part of the Frugal family, they're not going to say crap like that. They're not going to go there. They're not going to do that. And so the people that are saying stuff like that, they have no good intentions behind those kinds of comments, and they're not trying to provide any constructive criticism or anything useful. They're there to troll and to hate and to be envious and to try to bring other people down. That's all they are doing. And so I exercise absolute, iron fist discretion at blocking and deleting and stuff like that. And I have not felt bad about it basically from day one. I have no problem with that. If there's something constructive and useful that I don't necessarily agree with, yeah, I'll leave that up, and that's fine. But another thing that I had to accept a year or two ago was that, because I used to engage, I would. If there were people, saying really stupid stuff or that I didn't like, I would engage, and it would get heated and it would get ugly. And that wasn't the side of me that I wanted to put out here, because I can be nasty. I can be a horrible, terrible person to deal with. Absolutely.
Oh, we love
and that's
you,
not, but it's bad. Okay. It's bad. It is. It's useful sometimes, but it's not what I want on here. I don't need you guys to know that part of me, right? But I would engage with people and I would let it blow up, but it never left me feeling good, and it didn't accomplish anything. It didn't change their minds. It didn't turn them into good people. And then I also realized, especially as the channel grew and we got so many more comments that I absolutely cannot keep up with, but that I appreciate. I read every comment, but there's no way I can reply to all of them. I wish I could, but I can't. What I had to finally realize was, okay, if you're going to be fair to your real viewers, to the real Frugal family, if you don't reply to them who are loving you, supporting you, encouraging you, if you don't reply to all of their comments, how dare you reply to and engage with some troll or some monster? What does that say to your real viewers? Like, that's not fair to them, and that's not right. And I still have to remind myself of that anytime there's a crappy comment and I'm like, oh, let's fight. I'm like, no, because you haven't answered 300 other comments from real viewers. So no, don't you dare put energy into that garbage. Just delete it, just block them, get that stuff out of the way, and don't worry about it anymore. Real quick, I want to answer Julie N's question. She says, I don't understand what you're paying taxes on doing this kind of job. Can you explain? Are you referring to having a YouTube site? Okay. In the United States of America, where I live, you get to pay taxes on everything. It's like you breathe and you get to pay taxes. It's a beautiful part of the American dream, and they will find you. There are places where you have to pay taxes on yard sales. Luckily, not here if you don't claim it. We have to pay taxes on Google. Okay, Google, they own everything, right? They do. They own everything, including YouTube, including like PayPal and all this stuff. They own it. Well, I just yesterday got my Google tax statement. So yes, when we make money, the little bit that we make, nowhere near what people assume we make on AdSense, yes, you have to report that. Now, depending on what financial strata you happen to be in, that will absolutely affect if that amount is something you're going to end up having to alter your taxes for. Like if you're within a certain bracket, it might not bump you up to the next bracket that you're then going to have to pay on. Okay. But you do have to acknowledge it and you have to report it. If you have a Patreon, if you get PayPal donations, you have to report those. Now, if someone sends you a check or a money order or something like that, or cash money in the mail, that's up to you. All right, if you're going to report that or not. I'm not going to judge you either way because I do what I do. But if you sell stuff on eBay, you have to pay the taxes. eBay, it didn't used to be that you had to report your earnings. But then because some like state governments filed lawsuits and all this just BS, now almost every state in the nation, they make you pay taxes. Either on the item you're buying itself, you'll have to pay state taxes to wherever that item you're buying from. And yes, over, I think the minimum or the max you can make is like $500 in a year, or like 200 individual sales on eBay. This warrants a whole video in and of itself, I know, but giving you the nutshell here. So if you sell above like 200 items or $500, whichever comes first, yeah, you have to print out your tax sheet, your W-2 or W-9 or whatever it is from eBay, and you have to submit that. You absolutely have to report it. So yes, we pay taxes. Absolutely. Luckily, it hasn't hurt our family yet. And if you're smart about it and you use if you write things off that are part of your business, because it is a business, it is your real job, then you can get some exemptions and some write-offs, and that can help to balance it when you're still a small channel like ours. Now, the big channels, no, that's a whole different thing. They have to set aside huge chunks of money every month to pay the tax man because we are independently employed. I don't have a boss who takes out Social Security and taxes and all that for me every paycheck. I have to keep track of that myself and constantly be putting money aside for the time when and if our channel makes enough money that it does affect where our family sits. That's something we absolutely have to do. And then one last point. Yes, we are independently employed, but we don't own YouTube. We are at the whim of YouTube. It's free. Hallelujah. It is free for Crystal and me and anybody else to get on YouTube and to start a channel. And after a certain amount of meeting qualifications, yes, you can then hopefully get ads and make 25 cents here and there through AdSense, okay? But they can change the rules on us at any time, as they have and as they do. They absolutely can. They can decide that Crystal can't have comments on her videos for whatever reason. They can decide that it's a kid's video or that it's a naughty video, which are both. And you don't want to be either of those. You don't want to be a kid's video and you don't want to be a nasty video, okay? You want to ride that fine line. Yeah, you got to stay in that like happy place in the middle. They decide everything. We are just here by their grace and at their whim 100%. And I know that the average viewer has no idea. They don't know about any of those rules we have to follow. They look at us as self-employed, independent contractors or whatever that get to make all the rules. We don't get to make like any of the rules. We get to squish and mold ourselves into fitting into the YouTube mold so that we can make those 25 cents here and there. We have no control over any of that. People give us like way too much credit, We have no control. We can edit. We can do that. We can create the content. We can invest our own money into better recording equipment and lights and microphones and whatever. But at the end of the day, this isn't ours. It's not ours. This is my channel. Yeah, it's my channel as long as it doesn't get hacked and YouTube doesn't kick me off. That's it.
We can pretend it's our channel, and if we get 3 strikes, our channel's gone. So our business is at the whim of YouTube.
Yeah, just like my house is my house as long as we pay the mortgage.
Right.
We own our home. Yeah, right along with the bank.
And you better have that insurance on it since you own it. But if you don't have insurance because you don't want to, you don't own it because the bank owns it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will answer right away, Sharon. I know Andrew kind of answered it, but you said, what does R5 mean? I should just put a video of this out because people ask
You
it all
really
the
should,
time.
because I don't even know what it means.
R5, our last name is Rowe. So it starts with an R. And we have
Oh,
5 in our family. So R5. It's
there you
kind of
go.
the name we use for everything. Like our other channel is R5 Adventures. That's the family channel. It's kind of it's nothing. It's nothing like the diving channel. I'll just say that. But we have all of our stuff. We use R5 in it. We do R5 baits. We make fishing baits, so it's R5 baits. So we stick with the R5 for everything that we do. So it kind of stays in that uniform. But
Yep.
that's what R5 stands for. But and we are at that hour mark. I know Julie has things she has to get to too, but I guess to recap it, in all honesty, we're both, and I'm sure other divers are hoping that just by what we put out there, that you guys, everyone, anyone that's watching the replay, anyone that's watching the diving channels, anyone that's in the chat that might have been wondering that as well, we're just hoping you take from it that just because we're out there trying to reduce the waste going to the landfills, just because we don't like seeing the waste, does not mean that we can take everything that's in there. It doesn't mean that just because we want to do things a certain way, we can, because YouTube might be restricting it, or our family might be restricting it, because we have to take into account how it's going to affect our family as well. So we hope that you can take from it that just because we want to doesn't mean we can. And just take that into account when you're leaving your comments, when you're saying stuff. Just keep in mind that it's not always that we don't want to, it's that we can't. And thank you, Ellie. You came in with the last, and thank you. Thank you for
And
the
giving us a hard time about it doesn't make us any more able to do it.
yeah. But we do appreciate you guys being here. I did say at the beginning, I'll say it again. If anyone in the chat is here watching, lurking, chatting, if you don't know who Julie is, she has 3 channels. I put the 2 main dumpster channels in the description, so you can go check out her channels. One's more of a family channel, one's more of the dumpster diving, and then she's got her adult content, which you'll hear about if you go to the other channels. But that one's a little bit more of Julie. Let's let loose a little bit more. But thank you, Julie, for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for watching and letting me rant a little bit. You're fabulous.
She came over here. She's like, let's go. But hope everyone is staying safe, sane. And I'll end it on the note of, you don't know what anyone is going through, so just try to be kind. That's something everyone should strive for. Have a great day.
Bye.